Yes, hello, and welcome to Release the Creative, your favorite show about creativity, cognition, and this week there's a hole in my funnel, dear Liza, dear Liza.
That takes me back.
Doesn't it?
All those kid songs from the 19th century that they used to foist on us.
Yeah, like, and that one in particular is obnoxious. Like, there's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. And like, it went on forever, and I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I guess children's songs never make sense, but that one in particular seems frivolous.
Well, I think the point was to distract the child for an hour.
Yeah, but that's what 99 bottles of beer on the wall is for.
Yeah, it's a whole genre.
It is, in fact. It's like the Shaggy Dog jokes, which just, gosh, don't even get me started. If you don't know what a Shaggy Dog joke is, mention it in the comments and I will ruin the rest of your life.
Yeah, don't do that, listeners.
Oh, gosh, I wish I didn't know as many as I did. Anyway, this week we're talking about funnels, and if you're one of our listeners that's more of on the creativity and cognition side and less the marketing side, and you're not familiar with what a funnel is, I don't know who isn't, but my mom, for example, probably doesn't know what a funnel is, outside of the metal thing that puts liquids
into actual funnel.
An actual funnel. Just funnel strategy is a thing about how do I get the world at large, 7 billion people, to a smaller group, to a smaller group, to a smaller group, to the one person that's going to buy my product or service. Like, how do I make that funnel work? And there's a lot of times people talk about being, holes in a funnel are sometimes bad. It's like the people that are supposed to be funneling in are falling off the funnel. And sometimes that's good. Those weren't your customer. And sometimes it's bad. But I've started kind of doing this thing that I call like the leaky funnel theory, which isn't necessarily bad. It's how people from this funnel and people from this funnel are going to fall out of one funnel into another one, kind of like on accident.
Champagne glass tower.
It's damn it, that's so much better than leaky funnel theory. It's the champagne tower theory. Damn, that's better. I like that. But it's because they were set for one thing and they fell out of it for whatever reason, but they got caught by another one.
So the key is to own the next glass down and not have it be somebody else's champagne glass.
Exactly. And so the one thing that I've said to like so many clients that have come here and they've said, hey, we want X, Y, and Z. And I was like, cool. So what is your release strategy? And where are you releasing? They're like, Facebook. I'm like, that's great. And like, oh no, we actually had a client for about 3 years who said, well, 100% of our client base is on Facebook. That's just where our business is. That's where our storefront is. Our business is on Facebook. I'm like, our customers on Facebook, we have proven that. I was like, you've proven that there are customers on Facebook, but that doesn't mean that there aren't customers on Pinterest. He's like, that's not our client base. Who do you think is on Pinterest? Because he's like, oh, women. I was like, and zombie preppers. Like, go to my Pinterest, guys, dead serious. 100% of my boards are about how to survive the zombie apocalypse and motorcycles, and those two things are related. And it's about, if you aren't everywhere, then you're nowhere. And the day that Mark Zuckerberg, did you hear the thing about Australia News?
Yeah.
You tell me about that. What have you heard?
So to catch up, basically in Australia, the government passed I guess to back up, if you run a newspaper and...
Gosh, fighting with my microphone for those that are wondering why I'm like swatting at a bee. Continue.
If you run a newspaper, people put links to your news article on Facebook or Google searches. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, did somebody Google your newspaper and then click it and come to your page, or did they go to Google? And Google sometimes puts articles like you can read it on Google. You don't have to go to the page. Mm-hmm. And same things, people will paste things in Facebook. And so newspapers in Australia were saying, well, these social media people are getting advertising dollars from our content, and that's not fair. That is true. I can see the point of, well, the article was pasted on Facebook, but Rupert Murdoch kind of owns Australia, and they pushed the government, and they got the actual law passed is saying, like, if somebody puts a link to a newspaper on Facebook and people go to Facebook, see it, and go to the newspaper, Facebook owes the newspaper money. And Facebook's like, no, we're sending you the viewer. You make ad revenue off the, and so basically they cast a very wide net. And the way I understand it is, if you're Facebook and let's say newspaper A, newspaper A says, well, we got X number of viewers from Facebook and we sold about this amount of ad dollars, but Facebook made this much money off of people, coming to Facebook to see that link. And basically they're supposed to like go to an arbitrator and be like, okay, who owes who money in this case? Like sometimes the newspaper owes Facebook money, sometimes Facebook owes the newspaper money, and like we're going to figure it out on a case by case basis. And like it sounds very convoluted to me, but that's what happened. And so what Facebook did is said, okay, cool. That sounds expensive and complicated. We're just not going to let Australian newspapers be posted on Facebook. And they've made it so that if you post a link to an Australian newspaper, it just doesn't...
Baby out with the bathwater.
It doesn't go through. And some people are saying like censorship, and Facebook's saying like you put a price on a thing and we don't want to pay the price.
That's not censorship. That's capitalism.
That's commerce. And I mean,
commerce, yeah.
More to the point, that's how taxes are supposed to work. You tax cigarettes so that people smoke less cigarettes. If you put some kind of government fee on sharing newspaper links, there will be less shared newspaper links.
So
So that's what Facebook did. Facebook said, we're out. Google went with the compromise, because here's the thing. If you go to Facebook and there's no Australian newspapers there, you still talk about your aunt's cat. If you go to Google and you don't find the thing you're looking for, you stop using Google. So Google really had more of they were a little bit more over the barrel. And so they compromised, Facebook didn't. That's where we currently are.
That plays into this actually really well. You just touched on a few things that I knew about but hadn't been really factoring into all this. So everybody loses in that situation. All of them are there's $100 on the table, there's $100 million on the table, but it's $100 on the table, and everyone is arguing over who gets how many of them. But by doing what they did, now nobody gets any of it. They're like, I'm gonna light this $100 on fire. And what's funny is that Google goes, our service is connecting people with the information they want, so we have to stay at the table. Facebook says, our network is cat photos. Keep your news. Like, keep it. And so I follow this. We talked about her in an episode many episodes ago, the Iconoclast. She's an Australian art history person. She's awesome. Totally off subject, but check out her content on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. But she's in Australia, and she's how I learned about this. I was on TikTok, and she's like, so for those of you who didn't know, I woke up in Australia today to find out that all news is blocked from Facebook. And she talked more or less about what you did. And she comes down to, but the real takeaway here is, I guess you shouldn't be getting your news from one source anyway. Because there's a huge number of people that, yes, they get their news from CNN or Google or Fox or whatever, but they actually get it from Facebook. Facebook is their aggregator.
This is the thing that, Facebook is what has, led to the rise of extreme politicians, because they put everybody in a bubble and they don't see anything else. So it's a weird thing that like I kind of like am sympathetic with Facebook in Australia, and at the same time, like I don't think Facebook is a good thing. So it's like cool.
I'm sorry, Mr. Zuckerberg. I can't control him.
Less news on Facebook, overall good. And yet I'm also in favor of what they did.
Right. No, and so back to my point here. The reason I brought this up at all is if I was the Huffington Post of Australia, specifically of Australia, I woke up to find out that my entire business model was if I was a major blogger that was blogging in Facebook and was doing all and I had built my entire empire, and this happened a few years ago to a lot of people when the video thing kind of bubble burst on Facebook as well. I found out my business has just been eradicated, and it was completely out of my hands. I did absolutely nothing to deserve it. I didn't mean it. It wasn't anything I did, but the parents were fighting, and now Johnny has 2 Christmases, except like it.
Yeah, I mean, most often comes up with YouTubers. Right. Because YouTubers tend to be YouTubers, and if they get some sort of issue between them and Google, they're out of luck. Right. Whereas other kinds of podcasters, and like you can put your podcast different place, you can blog in different places, but like if you are a YouTuber, no one's going to go to Vimeo to watch your
well thing. And I mean a few months ago, and I was one of those people that absolutely, and I mean this, this isn't like hipster, I was never bothered by the TikTok shutdown. It never scared me even a little bit. I was like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But during that 3 months of every week it was going to close, like, it won't work on Monday. It won't work on, like, for 3 months it won't work next week. And every other TikTok was like, if you follow me here, make sure you follow me on Instagram. You're like,
grab that audience.
You're like, hey, follow for part 2, follow me on YouTube. For part, like, seriously, you'd see a 15-second TikTok and be like, for part 2, Instagram stories. And the whole idea was like, I can't build my empire on someone else's land. you can't do it.
And that's kind of what branding gives you. If YouTube were to shut down tomorrow, I know for a fact that of my top 10 favorite YouTubers, I know the brand name of 5 of them. I would Google it and find out where else they were right. because I knew their brand.
Right. And so the thing is that if you only build, so this is a 2-part kind of conversation today. One, if you build your castle on someone else's land, you didn't really build anything, because they can come and rip the carpet out from under you and go, like, YouTube can shut you down. That's what happened more or less to Felicia Day when her show got canceled as YouTube went to their next phase and stopped, supporting Geek and Sundry in the same way. It is what has happened multiple times to multiple creators, is they built their empire on someone else's land and someone else decided they didn't like that anymore. The other part of this, and that's why you shouldn't do it, the other part is that it's that champagne tower that we started off with. All of these channels are cross-pollinating. And it's amazing to me how not cross-pollinating and cross-pollinating is. So you mentioned it in a few, I want to tell 2 stories back to back really fast. You made a joke to me a few months ago. I don't remember what the joke is, but you made a joke to me and I didn't get it. And you're like, what? It's all over Reddit and I'd never heard it. He's like,
it was a meme. Yeah, it was a meme.
It was a meme. Like, I've seen this so many times. I was like, I'm unfamiliar with it. Months later, it's now all over TikTok. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all over. And he's like, dude, TikTok is behind the Reddit curve. Like,
so to catch everybody up, Kirk is a TikToker. I am a Redditor, and
there's very little
in between. We talk in the hallway. That's how I know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll be like, or he'll come and bring me a TikTok that he found on Reddit, or I'll show him a Reddit post that I found on
filters.
TikTok.
There's a lot of TikTok on Reddit that gets reposted, but it's a very small. Yeah. It's a particular type of TikTok that appeals to the Redditor. So I see certain things, and Kirk says, "Oh, that's one small sliver."
Yeah, he's
of
like,
what's
"Oh my
going
god,
on."
did you see this TikTok?" I was like, "That's not even the best version of that trend, man. Like, they need to get on it. There's better versions of that trend."
But yeah, so what's happening here is I, on Reddit, saw a post. Somebody took a photo, put it on Reddit. I showed it to Kirk.
Actually, you're one step even more. It's the owner of the Hive Tattoo Parlor in Salt Lake City, Utah. Took a picture of, they have one of those marquee signs in their opening.
Yeah.
They have a marquee sign and they put it, and it was a funny joke. It was just funny. It was just funny. And it was, they took a picture of the post and they put it on their own Instagram. Someone took their Instagram, and I forgot, I was going to say put his Reddit name, I have it, but someone took the Instagram and they put it on Reddit.
That's what I saw.
Neither of us use Instagram that much. I mean, we post our business stuff there, but we're not like
on it.
On Instagram. I've never talked to people on Instagram before. So neither of us is on Instagram. Someone took it off Instagram, put it on Reddit, where Jeff found it. Jeff then texted it to me. This picture of a funny thing, because I've been looking for a tattoo for a while. I've been like shopping artist, and this one was a funny marquee in a tattoo shop. He sends it to me. I then put that screenshot on a TikTok talking about, I guess, how now I have to pilgrimage all the way out to Utah just to get a tattoo. My TikTok low-key blew up. I'm not going to use numbers, because if I say anything, people would like roll their eyes. Whether it got 5,000 or 50 million views doesn't matter. It low-key blew up for the audience it was aimed at. I got several thousand, got several hundred hearts, it got several hundred comments. It was, and for this I have several different TikTok accounts. For this particular one, it was a really high engagement by percentage. It blew up to the point where people made several stitches and duets of it, which is a TikTok thing if you're unfamiliar. Made several stitches duets. It made it back to the owner of the tattoo parlor, and now they've told me that if I fly out, the tattoo is free. So just let's track that again. Cell phone to Instagram, Instagram to Reddit, Reddit to cell phone to my cell phone.
Through text message.
From my cell phone to TikTok, TikTok to the Salt Lake community, because I hashtag Salt Lake, hashtag the Hive.
Didn't it go from TikTok back to Instagram? Isn't that how they...
Oh, no, that's absolutely...
That's how they heard about you.
Then someone, they're not on TikTok, one of their followers saw my TikTok and Instagrammed them my TikTok, and they said, get that guy to get in touch with us, which I did. I was like, okay, I'm in. But they reached out, a TikToker reached out to me and said, hey, I just got in touch, I just Instagrammed. So it went full circle. Literally, went from Instagram to Reddit to cell phone to TikTok to Instagram. And now I am actually going to spend a little bit more money than I was planning on to fly to Utah. And they were like, well, they're not going to make money from that. But the reason I presume that they offered lots of people in the comments were like, oh my gosh, I'll go with you. Absolutely. That sounds so funny. Like, I got a lot of heat.
I want to bring up for the viewer, you hear a lot of influencer is a naughty word on the internet, particularly on Reddit. It's a really bad word. An influencer is someone who just tries to get free shit for no reason. And they go around and like, oh, I'll give you exposure. What Kirk specifically did here, which is not coincidental, what he actually did on purpose was he said, hey, I'm going to go to this. Who wants to come with me? Who wants to join me? Like that's how TikTok works, is he's very inclusive. And it wasn't a matter of, so on Reddit where I saw it, it's just like, haha, funny sign. And people are like, oh, where is that? Cool, thumbs up.
I was trying to storm the castle.
And Kirk goes on TikTok and specifically says, who wants to come with me? It was after that point that they get in touch with him and they're like, oh, wow, this guy's bringing us business. Not
and for the record, I need to be really clear here. I had no intention. Like, I was probably going to fly out and probably going to pay anyway because I liked the sign, I liked the vibe, and everyone in my comments extolled the merits of the artist. I started following every single artist on there, which you should check out. The Hive I'm in the show notes, we'll have all of this stuff, but the Hive Salt Lake City, they're great Instagram. Every single artist there is Mason Atlas is the owner and the guy. There's Queerly Magical is another one. Again, I'm sorry I don't have these on the top of my head, but they're all amazing artists. I fell in love with these guys. When I did the TikTok post, I wasn't kidding. I was just like, hey, I'm going to pilgrimage out. Who's with me? And I got like 80 different comments saying, party when I get here. These are not my friends. These are not like, oh, of course, if Kirk's in town, these are not people I know. They're like, absolutely. Because of my content and because of this, you should stop by. Well, again, we are in a pandemic, so I'll have to be pretty careful about what I let happen there. But I'm now going to, at some point in the next few months, as things become safer to travel, I'm going to travel out and I'm going to make as much hype as I can. And again, none of this, Gary Vee says it best. I did not do this for free things, and I was probably going to come out even without it. But it's not about the free things. It's about the community. It's about the growth. It's about the engagement, and I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But my point here, back to kind of the whole thing of the champagne flute, we have on one hand this massive leaky funnel that if we went to the owner, I'm going to ask him, if we went to Mr. Atlas and said, you put Instagrams of all your funny sign, you have a funny sign every week, every day, you do your funny sign, you put it on Instagram. Of course that's a marketing thing. I mean, there's no question here. That's a marketing thing. But how much business is that actually expected? Like,
right.
Are people going to come to your shop because they saw a tattoo they liked or a funny marquee sign? And the answer is it depends on the audience. Like, I don't have...
That's the top of the funnel.
Right.
That sign is, it brings... I don't want to say awareness, but it gives an attitude. And
here's what's really interesting is that you, from a sheer scientific standpoint, you're absolutely right. That is the top of the funnel. The top of the funnel gets you to look at the art. The top of the funnel gets you to look at the artists, and that gets you to book the appointment. That gets you to come in. For me, almost always my funnels are upside down. Not really. I mean, they're still funnels, but my point is that there are really good tattoo artists around here. The reason I hadn't gotten this tattoo months and months and months and months and months ago was that not that I couldn't find an artist, that I couldn't choose an artist, and I couldn't
it's choice paralysis.
It was choice paralysis and stuff like that, and I was looking as going away as far as Scranton, Pennsylvania. It's about 6 hours to find one that the story matters to me. It's not just a tattoo; it's a story, and it's a part of my brand. We talked about this a few weeks ago when we talked about personal branding. Mm-hmm. It had to be important, and so in a lot of ways, the top of the funnel is, can you draw? Like, you can't be your art is the top of the funnel. Me wanting you to be my artist, that is you being able to draw. That's the entry level. And for other people, like, no, it's the shop, it's the cleanliness, it's the bottled water, it's this. That's the top, and then the art is for me, you being able to draw is literally.
It's just the price for entry.
That's the price for entry. I am quite literally going to fly, and I'm quite literally going to fly to Utah because I like these guys' story. I like every artist there. I like their stuff. Some of them, even their two apprentices, I love their stuff. And I'm thinking about buying a painting from one of them because she's an apprentice tattooist, but she's great at... Some of her paintings are amazing. I'm thinking about buying some. Again, check it. I'm horrible with names. All of these names and links are going to be in the description. I like their story being a part of my story, where I could drive down the street, literally, it's about 100 about a 0.1 mile, 0.10 miles away. There's a great tattoo parlor with some really amazing tattoo, and I was thinking about going to them a bunch, but I just never, I was like, hitting the place in the strip mall on my lunch break is not the story I want for this. It's too important. But flying to Utah to find this shop of badasses that are like rebels, you know what, I'm in. And story matters.
In my ongoing attempt to mention Disney World in every podcast this season.
I pretty think you've done it. Yeah.
This was reminding me of at Disney World in the town square when you first come in, there's a barber shop.
Yes.
And it's primarily, you got to get a reservation like 6 months out. It's booked 6 months out.
That's amazing.
And you don't go, spend vacation time just getting a haircut for no reason. What people book it for is their child's first haircut. So that's it's like a big memory, and and you keep a lock of the hair, and the kid's like probably a year and a half old, like first time in the barber chair, first haircut at Disney World. And it's the same thing you just said. It's like, well, why would you want their first haircut to be at the next to the CVS? Like, no, you want it to be at Disney World.
Right. And I mean, again, there are people out there, and I'm jealous of all of it, have tons of tattoos, and the tattoo is the story, and their body is a canvas, and I love it. I think I'm going to do that for the record. But the idea that I'm 38 years old, that my first tattoo was going to be in a strip mall around the corner from my work, just great artist, strip mall around on my spare time. No. But something interesting that I want to dive into, this is not a super tangent, but often, when you're looking at real estate of any kind, especially when you're looking at commercial real estate, it's cost per square foot. And when you're saying like, oh, this widget, I'm going to sell these down jackets, and down jackets are really fluffy. And so for me to hold 100 of them, it's going to take this much square footage, and I sell them for $100 a piece. And if I don't sell them at the volume that I need, I'm spending more on the square footage than they are bringing in. The math of the value of this jacket versus the sale value of the jacket versus the space it's going to take, that math problem is a very real problem. So now let's talk Disney World. Now, space isn't really their thing. They have infinite-ish, but like, still, that barbershop that I knew about, I'd never gone and talked to them about it, but think for a moment.
It's right at the entrance. Yeah.
It is part of the story. It is prime real estate. They could have made a barbershop in Frontierland at the very, very back near Tom and Huck's. It could have been old Mr. Weatherby's barbershop and emporium, and it could have been at the general store in Frontierland, but it isn't. It is front and center because it's part of the story. It's Main Street, USA, and I want to know the math problem of the cost per square foot, but it's not even cost, but it's
all internal numbers. But no, if something's not bringing enough value, they would change it.
Right. And so it's exactly right. Like, little Johnny needs his first haircut. I don't want it to be next to the CVS on a Saturday morning when he could be watching cartoons. I want it to be a part of Mickey and the castle. That's brilliant. It's experiential storytelling, which I like, my thing. It's interesting when you start overlapping these funnels. When you start, I'm sure a haircut there isn't particularly, it's Disney expensive, but I cannot imagine it's a $300 salon haircut.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's 4 times the cost of a normal haircut, not 10.
But 50 is still a almost normal number.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now I want to check, but it's experiential, but you have these funnels. We have these overlappings of experiences of, so back to the core concept, they are on TikTok. Some of their artists are on TikTok. Back to the tattoo parlor. Some of their artists are on TikTok. They are all on Instagram because that's kind of the place to do art. Art. I haven't checked other channels per se. I know that they have a media company working with them. They have a website that's actually really, really good. They have some really cool stuff and things, but they got me as a customer through a remarkably leaky funnel.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't find me on TikTok, and I'm not on Instagram, and I'm not on Reddit. So the question becomes, how do you plan for that? And that's a whole nother podcast that we'll talk about. But how do you plan for that? That arguably all they're on is Instagram. That's not true, but like all they're on is Instagram. So it's clearly working. It's the champagne flute. They keep filling up a thing, and it just spreads everywhere. But the big problem with a lot of these Instagram tattoo places is what they are doing is they're selling, you should get a tattoo. Tattoos are cool. They're not necessarily saying, as much as tattoo artists on Instagram think they are, you should get a tattoo from me. Like, they really aren't. They're like, isn't this style cool? And so I was like, man, I didn't realize I like neo-realistic. So now I'm looking for neo-realistic. I'm not looking at your books. I'm looking at other artists similar. But their Instagram post of their marquee sign and their thing, that made me want to get a tattoo from them. Forget the artist. Your art's good too? Score.
That's always the difficulty in all marketing, is to differentiate yourself from your competitors, because at a certain point everything's a bit of a commodity.
Absolutely.
Even a tattoo artist, which is an artist, but
right.
I've seen a lot of tattoos. They're pretty similar.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So at some point you have to do. Everybody tries to do something different. And we struggle with this a lot with our own business, is how different can you get before it becomes off-putting or weird, or like it's real easy to just be like, be different from everyone else. And it's like, yeah, but you cross a line where like they don't understand what you do anymore, or they don't trust you because you don't seem like what they're expecting.
Well, and we talked about this in actually I think it was a LinkedIn video, but it's called Points of Parity versus Points of Differentiation. And that is, if you walk into a Walmart versus if you walk into a Target, points of parity. Can you get cosmetics, oil, a ream of paper, and a new vacuum at both of them? Absolutely. Actually, I can think of remarkably few things, I don't know that I can think of anything really, that similar size, similar town, that Target to Walmart, they are not the exact same store. I can't think of anything.
So much of it is stereotype. In my mind, I'm like, oh, Targets are nicer, the floors are better, and the lights are better.
Well, that's true.
When I go to Walmart, it's like, this isn't dirty. It's like, you kind of like, there's a lot of stereotypes involved in, like, I think of Walmart as being more like warehouse-like. It's like, oh, you've gone to the Amazon warehouse, but you go there and it's the same floors as Target.
Where the difference is that Target has more wood. It's a warmer colors. Mm-hmm. It's differences in colors. It's difference in lighting. It's different. It's experiential storytelling, and it costs a little bit more to pull that off. The lights are a bit better. There's more, and that's why it's 10% more. But there are people that are willing to spend the 10% to not go into a Walmart.
Yeah.
And Kmart, may they rest in peace. Same thing. It's points of parity. If I can't expect to get all the same things at both stores, one has a market advantage over the other. Points of parity matters. You need to be the same as your competitor. Points of differentiation is where it starts to matter. And so that's why we're talking tattoo parlors today, because of the Hive Salt Lake City. Hi. And by the way, guys, they are super duper not paying me to say any of this. And this was there's no agreement. There's no anything for any of this. I really love what they're doing. And I think they're doing some really cool things, and I want to talk about it. My brain just stopped working. So we've got, but points of parity, if you're a tattoo parlor, you better have tattoo needles and tattoo guns and people that can draw. Like, that is we can start arguing style and book, but really picking your tattoo artist is picking the story you want to be a part of, or the person you want to illustrate that story. And that's where it starts to matter. That's the differentiation. Not that you have a nice facility. That's kind of entry. Not that you have a nice equipment. That's kind of expected. Like, if a tattoo parlor ever started bragging to me about the type of gun they used, I'd be like, and I'm out. Yeah,
it's not, that's your business, not mine.
I don't really care. Like, if a ship captain started telling me about the rudder that they just upgraded, I was like, congratulations.
Yeah, and I mean,
talk to me about the food.
You have different audiences, and the equivalent in our business is the majority of our clients do not care at all what camera we use. In fact, they would become angry if we told them that, like, don't bother me with that stuff. But then we do have some clients who like call, and like the first question out of their mouth is, what do you own? Because they want to rent a very specific,
or they already have 3 and they want to match or something.
Yeah. So with some of our customers, the camera type is going to get us the job or lose us the job, and other ones, they don't even want to know. And that's like the tattoo artists fall pretty much all on the side of they want the art, not the method.
Right. I mean, it couldn't matter less, unless, again, oh no, I want a very specific tattoo done in a very specific way that requires a very specific thing, and I'm sure that person's out there. But
those are your different funnels.
But back to the point of today's episode as we kind of wrap up, there's a hole in my funnel, dear Liza, is that we really need to be everywhere. Those people that built their house just in those news companies in Australia that were using and counting on Facebook to really push the message to its audience, they're SOL at the moment until that gets fixed, which it will. Some agreement will be made. It'll happen. they got a funnel, their funnel got broken, and those that didn't have other funnels, they were just SOL. You need to have a funnel, but you need to have a leaky funnel. You need to have a funnel that is you need to have a champagne tower where things are cross-populating, just like this story. That, you know, we've here. From phone to Instagram to Reddit to phone to TikTok to Instagram, full circle. And I am now, like I said, I was only planning on getting one, and I might be getting more than one. And I love this shop, and I want to send business to them because of how cool I think they are, which means it worked, but not in any way they could have ever intended. Like, no one plans that.
It wasn't the plan, but it got the result they wanted.
Absolutely. So leaky funnels are often considered bad, but I don't think so. I think that you need to have staggered and stacked funnels. You need to have a Venn diagram and overlapping of information, because I'm not on Instagram, but I was their customer. I'm on TikTok. I'm not on Reddit, but I was their customer. And it was only through multiples of weird funnels that it got to me. And so having a leaky funnel, good, because it gets to the right person. Having only one funnel, bad, because unless this happens, which is a 1 in a million, it's never gonna, you know. So that's kind of my the Kirk's notes for the day, is that you need to be on multiple channels. And next week we're going to be talking about channel strategy and how you plan that, because even if you're sending things down LinkedIn, it can get to someone on TikTok. I have personally put things from LinkedIn on TikTok, things that would work, but you need to be making multiple funnels. You need to be working on multiple channels, and you need to be setting it up so that they are leaking and cross-pollinating across them all.
Very cool. And I look forward to talking about channels next week.
Awesome. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching Release the Creative.
See you then.
Thanks for joining us here at Release the Creative. Kirk here would never say it to your face, but he thinks you should like and subscribe to us on YouTube.
And Jeff is far too shy to admit it, but he thinks you should subscribe to us on your favorite podcast reader.
Yeah? Well, you're the one who's always saying that everyone should give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Why do you have to make everything so difficult?